Aren't you tired of spending hours and hours building layers of paint on your model just to end up with a hot, chalky mess? What if there was a simple way to avoid all this frustration? Using a simple technique that's gonna allow you to solve all your blending problems. Once you unlock its full power, you're gonna stop wasting time and actually start to improve. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to actually use layering to allow you to paint faster and better, and what are the two missing puzzle pieces that are holding you back and making you feel frustrated. But first, we need to understand what is layering. So the first time that I heard about this technique was with GW tutorials and books. Usually you would use this technique to clean up the base color after applying a wash, or to apply a lighter layer, leaving the recesses darker, leaving a little bit of a prior color showing through. It's kind of the whole point of layering now, isn't it? This means you gotta decide how much you should cover and how many layers should you apply. But how'd you do that? I can tell you, in this choice lies the big mistake. It's actually all about this decision that seems minor, but it's not. Seems minor, but it's not. Seems, but it's not. If you want to stop feeling frustrated, you're gonna have to follow the steps I'm about to show you in order to make this decision the right way. First, you need to ask yourself one question before anything else. What's the color of the surface you are painting? Yellow, green, pink, fluid, orange. Once you answered that, you'll move on to step one, which is to pick the base color. This is just the actual color you're gonna use to base coat, which is based on the previous decision you made, of course. Try to reach full opacity with this base coat. Step two, pick the highlight color. Usually this is a lighter version of the base coat. And with the amount of premixed paint that we have, it's not gonna be a problem to find a lighter version and not mix it yourself, especially with the triad system that the Army Painter does, which I think is very useful. Sometimes instead of adding white, for example, if you're highlighting green, you can add a little bit of yellow in your highlight color and it's gonna be more vibrant. Step three, pick two middle colors. Once you have your base color A and your highlight color B, you're gonna have to pick one or two middle colors that are gonna help you to get to B. Before you go do that, you need to ask yourself, how distant is A from B? The longer the distance between A and B, and the more contrast you have on your model, more visual impact your miniatures will have. But it's also gonna be harder to achieve. So is there a way to make building up with contrast easy? Theoretically, by creating more intermediate layers between A and B, you will leave less space, which in terms means less blending, right? If you pick more layers, you should cover more, around 80% of the surface. And if you want less layers, you should cover less, around 50%, sometimes even less. And this answered the question how much you should cover. So maybe you'll think, fine, that's great. I'm gonna pick 5 different colors. It's gonna be super easy to get there, right? That's the intuitive thing to think. But I said theoretically for a reason, because there's a sneaky mistakes you're likely making, and it's exactly what I was talking about before. This is caused by one thing we are bombarded with when we first start painting. When you're a beginner, people talk your ear off by telling you to apply thin layers to your model. This is just not to make beginners clog up all the details of the miniature by applying blob up paints. And that's great, that's good. But the thing is, you're not a beginner anymore. And you know how to thin down paints in order to apply 1 or 2 layers to create a matte base coat, right? But bloody Duncan roads get so much in our head. You are probably thinning your paints way more than you actually need to. And it fucks everything up. But why? What are you blabbering about? How can this be bad? This is a problem because it's very likely all these intermediate steps you're making in order to achieve smoother transition, you're building them up with thin layers of paint. So you don't build full opacity and you move on to the other layer, and you still don't build full opacity, and everything is gonna be messed up. And the result that you won't see where to blend, because every layer will be applied not in an opaque way. In terms, this will create that dreadful thing, nightmarish chalkiness. If you use these thin layers, the paint is also harder to control. If you apply it in the wrong way with the wrong brush stroke, it's gonna make every layer you paint worse. So how do you fix it? Before I tell you that, there is something else you need to fix first that's causing you back pain and general uncomfortableness. Is that a word?
One of the most important and underrated thing about painting is the position you have. Kinda need to be both stable and comfortable in order to avoid injuries, pain, suffering.
But what if the desk or the chair is not compatible with the position you find most comfortable? And here's a simple solution for you. Just get an adjustable desk, like the one from today's sponsor, FlexiSpot. With this desk, you will be able to adjust that any height so you can be comfortable in any position. Whether you paint with your elbows on the table, or if you paint like me with your hands rested on the table itself, this baby is also pretty sturdy. I got the acrylic black panel because you're gonna spill color on this thing and you don't want wood. Now visit flexispot.com. The link will be in the description down below, and using my promo code down below, you will be able to get $50 off your purchase.
So what are you waiting for? Get yours now and finally stop having pain more than you need to, at least.
Back to chalkiness, the solution I'm about to tell you is the two missing puzzle pieces I was talking about before, and that's gonna allow you to achieve a better looking and more readable result. One of the characteristics of acrylic paint is its translucency, which can really be useful if you know how to master it. Before you do that though, you should cover your basics. Start trying to apply layers with full opacity. Most ranges these days have paint that covers the surface with 1 or 2 layers. And trust me, you won't clog up the details because you're not a beginner anymore. You will know if you have too much paint on your brush. But don't be afraid. Try to cover it with 1 layer. If you really feel insecure, 2 layers, fine, I guess it's fine. But what about the second one? You can finish the f***ing puzzle if one piece is missing. Well, anyway, we'll need to go back to step 2, where you choose the highlight color. You must pick a highlight color that's gonna allow you to get from A to B with just 1 color. So the jump must be smaller to start with, but not as small that you can't tell the difference. This way you build nice contrast fast without going crazy. The new Army Painter range make this step real easy because they come in triads. But be careful, because no paint range is perfect. Not every triad is perfect as well. Sometimes the jump is a little bit too high. Sometimes the jump is, for me, a little bit too low. And also it's kind of subjective. So the triad system, yes, I approve. So how can you tell if the jump is right? A very nice trick I just discovered to help you see if the 2 layers work together is to put them side by side on the palette and look at them. Can you clearly see the difference between the two? If yes, in order to make sure if the jump is not too high, just squint your eyes. By squinting your eyes, you kind of get a blurry vision, and that kind of mix these colors together. Oh, listen, I don't have a physical explanation. Do I look like a f***ing doctor? Trust me on this and try it. Squinting your eyes in art always works. If they kind of look the same when you squint your eyes, you get yourself a winner. If you see too much of a difference, you gotta go lower. So apply your base coat A, then apply A2, and finally B. Something I didn't mention before when I described the steps is you actually have to pick the shadow as well. And you're gonna do it pretty much in the same ways as you picked your highlights. Next month, I'm gonna do a deep dive on highlights and shadows on my newsletter. So you should definitely sign up in the link down below if you're interested in hearing, 3 improvement tips, I guess. So you build up matte layers, and sometimes I will just leave it like this because I think it's pretty cool and it looks like cell shading technique, so kind of looks cool. The smaller the miniature you're painting, the less you will need to actually take care of that transition. What if you want to blend the colors? Well, there's a secret way to get smooth blends that I've been practicing and perfecting for a few years now. This way of blending is being taught to me by Golden Demon winner Agnao Lazaro, and this approach allowed me to get my models more readable, cleaner, and more contrasted. And I think this is kind of the same technique that Sergio Calvo uses, which I think he calls capibazes, because the layers are like base coats, because you kind of associate to the word base coat something that's matte, whether layer is associated to something thinner, and that's wrong. This technique consists in blending on only the edges where the two transitions meet. There's still another problem, is there though? This is getting old. Come on, always a problem, always a problem, always a problem. If you don't solve this, you won't be able to get the creamy blends you know you desperately want. So watch this video right here, because blending is hard and it doesn't really have to be. I'll see you there. Or you'll see past me, you'll see past in the video.